Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome for the final time in 2023 to the Wellness Policy. My name is Wai Ting, and I'm here with my very good friends, Jordan Goodman and Neal Flanagan. Hello and welcome for the final time this year.
Yes, we've become very good friends now.
We have. Hello, Wai.
You two better friends than I would say either of you are with me. I sense a bit of a difference in closeness.
I don't know about that. We're certainly in touch, probably virtually constantly. It's at times, but I don't know that makes us closer. What do you think, Jordan? I consider Wai a very close friend. So
yeah, but we're closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, and that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't detect jealousy or envy, Wai.
Not at all.
No. Curious.
In fact, I think you prefer it this way. You think we're too close for your comfort.
Maybe you could be right. I am a relatively, I think, guarded person. It takes a while, I think, to break the ice. But I would say I do consider us like good friends. Okay. Nonetheless, I don't mind being in this position. I'm actually happy that you're welcoming me, I feel, into your group. This is how it feels sometimes.
Wow.
But you're both very welcoming people, so it's all good.
Well, that's nice. But which is kind of odd because this project at least started as you and I, Wai, and you're the one who invited Neal to join us.
Yes. I mean, first of all, I recognize the relationship between the two of you. Okay. And I also think he's just a wonderful fit for, I think, the vibe of the show and the topics with the show. And maybe I'm just like, I'm always the type of friend who feels like the more the merrier. And I don't really mind. I don't feel threatened at all. No.
I would agree. More the merrier. It's this whole post wrestling thing has been very nice for me for many reasons, but perhaps the key reason is that it's been like a really nice community to be a part of. And I think back on just a couple years ago when I essentially like started developing relationships in this community, and thinking back on the trip to New York about a year ago, it's like I made a lot of good friends out of this community. It's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, I guess a show like this where we can maybe talk about that or just even, I don't know, emphasize the idea of pro wrestling community within at least our little podcast space. But this is our end of year show, open topics where we can talk about anything and everything, including everything that we've discussed so far. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing really well. I missed last month, which is a bit of a downer, or was a bit of a downer. So I've got a quick update on music. I had a quick rummage in my old record collection, and look what I found. Podcast listeners, I'm holding up a 12-inch single.
Wow.
The extended version from 1993, 30 years ago, of If I Had No Loot by New Jack Swing pioneers of the early 90s, Tony. This is in mint condition. Probably because I only played it maybe twice ever. But conservatively, I'd value that record at $150,000. Yeah? You think I'm...
Yeah. I never had a Tony phase, I must admit.
Agreed.
I don't remember buying it. I barely remember how it goes, but I obviously did.
So what are we talking, like R&B? You don't like 90s R&B?
90s R&B, yeah. I think it was a hit over here. I think a hit over there as well.
Here as well. I would. So, I mean, sorry, Neal, but relative to me, you're kind of old. So I was a bit young. Like I kind of came on board. We talked about All for One, Boys to Men, but not even Motown Philly Boys to Men. Like I'll Make Love to You, Boys to Men, 94, I would guess.
Yeah.
But maybe Tony peaked at that time too. I don't know. I'm ignorant, admittedly.
I think they did. And again, it's a bit of an outlier in my record collection from that time. I've talked before about being heavily into the sort of sub pop stable at that point, particularly Nirvana, but Dinosaur Jr. and Sonic Youth and bands like that. So I really don't know. Maybe it's just part of my eclectic taste. Because as you know, Jordan, because I sent you a Kelly Clarkson clip yesterday, I have a wide range of likes in music, and some of it is just pure on pop stuff as well.
What do you guys like listening to during the holidays?
I haven't yet, but the Peanuts Christmas album is probably an album I've listened to the most. Actually, I watched the cartoon for the first time, I think 2 seasons ago. Thought it was dog shit, to be honest. But the album is incredible. For some reason, I have yet to listen to that. I haven't really listened to much holiday music yet this year, but that would be a go-to.
The Vince Guaraldi Trio?
Correct.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, jazz music.
Gotcha. Right, interesting. Yeah, I mean, lately I feel like I've had a bit of a resurgence in my interest in just like Christmas, just having a kid. Even if like my kid is completely like not really all that conscious about what's going on. Just by having a kid around, I feel like I'm a bit more like Christmas is a bit more newer to me, you know. I experienced it as a kid really just kind of through television because like my family didn't necessarily celebrate it. We tried one year and I mean, it just really wasn't, you know, it was great, like for the novelty, but it was so much work, like we never did it again. But now I guess like being in charge of it and being able to experience it through him, I'm a lot more festive now. So like, I'll just put on like a lot of like Spotify playlists of Christmas songs and you just kind of get in the mood and it's kind of nice.
It is.
I like, sorry, Neil, the YouTube, the kind of visualizers where you got a setting of, you know, from the perspective of a cafe and outside the window, there's snow falling and Christmas trees and lights with like jazz music or, you know, like kind of chill hop music. That's kind of nice. Sometimes I'll just have that on the background if I'm doing work or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put on a couple of Spotify or Apple Music sort of Christmassy playlists when helping do the decorations in the house and stuff like that. But for the most part, I don't really listen to.
You see that? Sorry.
I think it's an Apple thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Neil put his thumbs up and then like Apple, the new Apple gives you like these little emojis. See? Yeah, it doesn't sound good on radio. And Jordan, you can't do it because you're not an Apple guy. But
I have a MacBook right now. It's like 10 years old, but nonetheless, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very reliable because I'm trying to do a thumbs down. Maybe it doesn't like thumbs down because Apple's just so into positivity. But over here, the moment Halloween is finished with, like you walk into any kind of store and they're playing, you know, Last Christmas by Wham, or, you know, there's the usual suspects on loop. So I do get a bit tired of the playlists.
Yeah, but then you miss it, when it comes back, right, in November. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Be honest. What are sort of like your go-to Christmas songs, or your favorites, I suppose?
I don't know if I've got a favorite. Like Mariah Carey just leaps to mind, and it's not because it's a favorite. It's just because, you know, she even makes a production, and quite rightly so. It's I'm sure the residuals on that song must be incredible for her. But you know, as soon as again, it's really sort of November. She makes a sort of a YouTube production where she's like being chipped out of a block of ice or something like that, and then it's, you know, All I Want for Christmas.
She's like an item now, like she's like a Christmas prop now, and she's just kind of run with that sort of I guess gimmick.
I did have a Mariah Carey phase, like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. That Music Box album, fucked hard with that record.
What was on
a lot
that?
Lot of hits.
Hero was like the main, was like the ballad. There are a couple other pop songs on that, a bit more up tempo. I forget, it's not coming to mind, but it looks
Dream
like
Lover, is that on there?
Dream Lover, I think, because then she got more into like the TRL era and Diddy, and it became a bit more like hip hop influenced beats and all that. But yes, Music Box. To me that's more classic Mariah Carey. I enjoyed that, but I was also 8 years old.
Yeah. So I'm somebody who I guess like I don't know, for whatever reason, I've just like had another Beatles phase recently, so I've
Yeah.
just been really listening to everything, and I guess every year I still marvel that like "Wonderful Christmas Time" by Paul McCartney is a thing at all, and I recognize that it's like kind of from like an experimental period of his career where he was kind of like fucking with like electronics or
Mhm.
electronic music, and it's an awful song. It's a truly, I think, terrible song that you.
Why?
It's just shit.
Like
It's not
his
good.
his 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 version of it, or is that an original
It's an
song?
original song. I mean, as
Okay,
far as I know,
it's endured for decades at this point. Granted, it's Paul McCartney, but
I think that's
what
why.
I think I like it.
I think it's awful. I think
The production is a bit weird on it.
no, it's super like it's awful, but I love it because it's so weird. Because I love it because the guy who wrote Blackbird also wrote that.
Yeah.
You know,
Have
are
you
you
ever
familiar?
have you guys ever heard the Frog chorus song by Paul McCartney? I don't know how well it's known across the pond, but it was an enormous hit here. And I
No.
was very young at the time. And it's from a movie, an animated movie, and about Rupert the Bear, who's like a cartoon character in the UK. And it's Paul McCartney and the Frog chorus. The song itself is called "We All Stand Together" or something, and I think it's clearly his worst work ever.
Yeah, right. What does it sound like? I don't want to play it because I don't want to get flagged. But
That looks cool though.
It's a very kids sort of type thing. It's hand in hand, da-na-na, someday. Da-na-na. It's very kind of almost nursery rhymish kind
we
of
might get flagged just from
melody.
that perfect rendition there, Neil.
Well,
I mean,
Neil, you could record nursery rhymes because you already have that soothing tone and voice and just energetic quality, we could say. I think there's something to that in your retirement life.
Could be, yeah.
yeah. You ever
What-
thought about profiting off of that? Those pipes.
No, they're not. There's. I don't feel that. I don't really like listening to my own voice. I rarely listen back to podcasts that I've been on, unless I'm kind of trying to critique myself and just be a little, trying to learn from it, But never
You were on a recent show with John. Sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to compliment you because you were on a recent podcast with John while I was away on vacation, and I actually like really love the combination of your voices as well as like I think personalities.
Great rapport.
Yeah, I felt that way. I mean, for one thing, I told this to Neil personally, but I guess because you guys have already a working relationship, you and John, I think John felt a lot more like comfortable and loose, as he often does. But I felt maybe a bit more chemistry, with you two than even typical. And I just think the energy was good too, because like he could be he could be like more energetic, certainly speaking as the person who might be lower energy of the two of us. And then Neil, I would say you are also maybe, at least in terms of delivery, a bit more lower energy but calming, and I think the combination I thought really worked. So basically you should take over my job.
don't be daft way.
mostly.
There's absolutely no. You are irreplaceable, and that was. I will admit, that Friday afternoon, I'm nervous about it because even though I've done, this is the end of my first full year with the wellness policy, and I joined it in June of last year. So I've been doing this podcast for 18 months. So I like to think, even though it's only it's a monthly show, I've got some reps at least. But I haven't done a wrestling show that immediately follows a live event before. It's a different dynamic, because I'm trying to take some notes and be clear on what I'm going to be talking about. I know that John's going to go through the news, so I wanted to make sure I'm up on all of that. But it all goes back to what you said. I feel like John and I have a good relationship, so he put me at my ease immediately, and I felt like we clicked quite rather well. And I think that was the key to. If it was pretty good, and I hope it was, that was the key to it.
I loved it. Look, if John had asked me to do it, I could not have riffed like that long on Frost Nixon.
Well, I was lucky to have that kind of, he very randomly just talked about this DVD, and I happened to know the background to that event, the Frost Nixon interview. So,
but you guys are like pretty similar as far as, let's say, intellectual knowledge and curiosity about culture, media, and so on. It was a good fit.
I think he would have owned that Tony record. Actually, it's very possible.
Could be.
He confuses me with his musical taste. I love it. It's just
he's an enigma, much like Paul McCartney.
Very much so.
Yeah, especially during Christmas time. He loves Christmas. So,
oh yeah.
Wonder what his playlist would be.
But yeah, from Joe E and Aqua to, like, he loves the Foo Fighters and sort of what we would think of possibly as more credible, musicianship and all of that as well. I'm a bit like that. Like I mentioned Kelly Clarkson also, earlier. I don't know if you're familiar with this way. I've made Jordan familiar with it because I bombard. He probably doesn't watch any of the clips, but
that's not true. I've watched.
I know. I know it's not true.
So Neal messages me yesterday with the clip of the Kelly Clarkson show, where I believe at the beginning of each show, her and her house band covers some song, and Neal prefaces it with like almost apologizing for sending this to me, and I'm like, she's one of the most talented pop musicians like of my time, and has access to the world's most talented, skilled, professional, competent musicians. So why wouldn't I be interested in that?
So
I don't know.
What was the clip of in particular?
She does a cover version. It's called Kellyoke at the beginning. It's at the beginning of every episode. So she has a daytime talk show, and this one was from 10 or 11 days ago. I just hit upon it, and it was a cover, a little tight 2-minute cover of Madonna's Vogue. But the original of that song is all synths and drum machines. So I was just really impressed as a non-musician by how tight the band were, particularly the drumming and all of that. And I wanted Jordan's opinion on it. So you're right, Jordan. I think I did say something like, sorry, I'm not trying to foist Kelly Clarkson on you, but have a listen to this and see what you think, But I think she is a tremendous vocalist, and I do check in on that playlist every day just to see what the song is that she's chosen to do. Because she did all the small things. She picks all sorts.
Interesting what the internet has been able to provide. This sort of a I don't know, frequent connection, I would say. This is the year-end show, and part of what makes the year-end show special is because, well, we accept a lot of calls, hopefully, from people that might be listening to us live at youtube.com/postwrestling. Those of you in the chat room can find the link in the show description or up in the chat room right now. And we actually have our first caller.
Cool.
Somebody who I think is a very important member and somebody who we think about all the time here at the Wellness Policy. Brandon from New Jersey. Welcome. Oh, I think he's muted. Okay. Well,
riveting.
That was flat.
Brandon.
Well, he is there. Whenever you choose to unmute yourself, feel free. But all right.
Wait, let me ask you. So kind of year-end review type stuff.
Yeah.
You've watched a lot of wrestling for a long time, as have I, but you in a very different way, where like you have to, essentially. This is a commitment that you have made. So I don't know. You probably just, I don't know, process wrestling differently than I, categorize it mentally, emotionally different than I might. Like, how would you say this past year of wrestling has been for you?
I think it's so like the wrestling product itself, or you mean the world of wrestling coverage, like news coverage?
Both, but let's start with just the product itself.
Okay. I think the product itself has been good overall. Like, I think wrestling has been really strong this year, both principally in the products I watch in AEW and WWE. Certainly when we're talking about AEW, there are criticisms to be made of like general direction and maybe expectation versus like, I don't know what they've actually delivered so far. But the general in-ring standard is still incredibly high, to the point where I think we're kind of spoiled and we can start to focus on things that aren't as adequate, like maybe certain storylines. So that's always been great. Now WWE, I think, has improved a dramatic deal. Last year they were already like pretty much on the right track, but this is like the first full Paul Levesque year, and I think their stories are really connecting in several fronts. I think the in-ring content is very satisfying to me in many ways. So I would say overall, like those two products are both very good. The backstage behind the scenes is, I think, just as riveting as last year was. Last year felt like one of the bigger, news years. This was just as much. Is Vince McMahon back? Is the company sold? Just following CM Punk himself in where he's going. The constant sort of like jumping ships of talents going back and forth, at least that potential. TV rights deals come and do. I there's always something to talk about, and this year I thought provided a whole lot of conversation.
I can't disagree with anything you said. So based on all that, I'm wondering, does that make, like, you think back on your this year professionally, does it feel more enjoyable? Does it feel more successful?
I think we've had like good shows, but I guess I measure like our success in ways not necessarily related to the quality of the wrestling product. Like our success is more so measured, I think, in like interest, listenership,
Sure.
audience, like how successful the business is. And for me personally, I think I measure it by like my contributions personally, response to my contributions, and like how I self-assess the quality of my own work. And it's been challenging, trying to balance, I guess, like having a child at home and making sure I feel like I'm dedicating enough time to this business as well. So that to me has been a bit trickier. Now next year, Oscar's going to go into daycare, so I'm curious to see like how that might affect just kind of my day-to-day work life. But yeah, I would say a bit of a mixed bag for me personally. Yeah.
Neal, one more question. This is very interesting to me, Wai.
Me too.
So putting aside income, viewership, listenership, those types of metrics, you mentioned just your own output, like what you produce, and that being part of how you factor in success or not. Like, what's something over the past few years that you're most proud of creating or producing or publishing?
Over the past year?
Or so. Yeah. I'm just curious, what's one of those outliers where you're like, fuck yeah, I put my head down on the pillow at night and I feel really good about what I did.
Right. I'm a terrible person to ask a question like this because I don't really look back at all. Like I have to make a real effort to like go back and remember what I even did. Like because there's always something to do like the next day. I often just like do things and then I just don't think about them for a long time. That's probably why my recall for a lot of like, wrestling might be so much worse compared to John's. So, there are often shows that we do where I feel like, wow, that I felt like that was a really good show. I felt like I enjoyed my, I guess, performance, for lack of a better word, on the actual recording itself. But then I don't really think back. The type of work we do is so, I hate to say it, but kind of disposable because it's so based in the news cycle. So a week later, it's already replaced by something else. So it's never the type of thing where I go back and think, well, remember like 3 weeks ago when I had a really great show. I personally don't. But I mean, there are often shows that I think we do that I'm very proud of. I'm just more maybe proud of the overall sort of general direction of, I think, the site, having a lot more contributors on, giving just having like a much fuller schedule than usual and giving our audience things to choose from. I'll say something maybe I do think about a lot is just YouTube thumbnails. I put a lot more work into those than I think most people realize. It to me is like a very, very much a sort of like a, I don't know, a marketing art form in and of itself. So I do put a lot of effort into that, and if anything, that might be something I do go back and try to look at to see like what I've done well, what I haven't done well, what I could do better, what I shouldn't do again.
Do you have any insights into that way? And all I know is that because, I'm not a creator in that sense, I don't put stuff on YouTube, but I hear and read quite a bit that there is kind of a dark art to creation of thumbnails, getting engagement. It's notoriously very difficult to grow a channel and that sort of thing, so what goes into your thought process for these thumbnails and so on, and why would one be more successful than another? Just a picture of Tammy Sitch I see, for example, as opposed to, where there's logos and
I mean,
graphics
it's a very tricky balance that I'm still continuing to learn about myself, where you certainly don't want to be too you can be very sensational, as is I think I don't know, a lot of successful YouTube. You often see the big
exactly
reactionary
hugely exaggerated facial expression. That's what I see. I like a lot of tech YouTube reviews and stuff like that, and it's constant, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's successful, and it makes sense, and I don't really think it's wrong at all. As long as your content is strong, I think it's fair to make the wrapping as attractive as possible to get people to click, because you're competing with everybody, and I think it's perfectly fair to want to stand out, however you're able to. I guess I recognize it's not necessarily something that I think fits with what we're doing, or at least sometimes it just might be too much effort to try to find a still like that every single time. I think I've had to think about what is attractive while at the same time fits in line with, I think, our style of I guess production and journalism, and making sure we're not too clickbaity, because I think we have an audience that's very that recognizes, when we're trying to be too gimmicky, and it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel real. So I think things honestly, if CM Punk is in your video, it's going to do well. That's what I've learned over the past year. Oftentimes it just comes down to that. So
even on a micro level way, I've noticed the weirdest stories sometimes that, maybe I'm doing a Saturday afternoon and then maybe, helping John on a Friday or something like that. So the news comes in, and it might be just the oddest story seems to get the most attention. I don't particularly see the back end in the sense of, I do see the back end because I'm writing the stories, but to tighten up what I'm saying here, generally I'm thinking more of engagement through likes and retweets of the link to the story. And it's things like, I think it was almost getting married or engaged or something. It was more of a picture story than anything, but was just crazy. I haven't seen engagement like that on Twitter. And last week there was one that really took off. I forget what it was, but to me it seemed like a sort of a throwaway story, to be honest, but people latched onto it.
I believe this Omos story was the biggest story of postwrestling.com this year. Yeah, and Neil was the one to find it. And it's hard to know what hits. And I think Andrew Thompson is sort of the king of finding these obscure things and turning them into very successful articles. Because I think we're still a relatively small site. People aren't necessarily going to us as the first source of your regular news cycle. So I think we kind of need, these sort of off the beaten path type of stories in order to drive, I guess, attention. And Omos marrying his longtime girlfriend in a ceremony attended by WWE friends was, I guess, one of those stories. One of the top stories of 2023.
That's honestly, I didn't know. That's where he's been all these months.
Enjoying life, maybe. Yeah.
Good for him. Good for him. So, kind of to that point, Neil, I'd say this has been a very significant year for you as it relates to post wrestling. When you and I first started chatting, I think you were a fan, a caller, of post, and now you're a podcast co-host. You're a reporter. You have access. You can tweet on behalf of Post Wrestling, apparently. You've
He's
come a
worked
long way.
himself. He's really snaked himself in there
What
into
the
a
fuck?
position of power these years.
You're now a
Just
a fill-in.
under the radar. This kind of you're making it sound like this kind of sneaky thing.
Yeah,
but
you
it's
sneaky son of a bitch.
yeah. See, it's still waters run deep or something or whatever. But it's been a tremendous year in that sense, and I have loved it because. No offense to any of my co-workers who happen to be watching or listening, but my day job can be kind of dry at times. It's governmental. There's some dry stuff, and I get way more quote unquote job satisfaction from what I'm doing here on this podcast, what I do for the website, and other, whether it's MCU later or any little guest spots I can pick up here or there. I love doing it. Genuinely. So yeah, there's been a lot more of that this year. And you're right, Jordan, when we first sort of connected, I was really a caller. I was a listener and a caller. I don't think I really did anything for the site besides perhaps a little bit of a voluntary proofreading for John, because that's my professional background as a copy editor.
Mm-hmm.
You've come a long way.
Thank you. Yeah, I do feel that way very much.
How about you, Jordan? This has been a tough year for you, as the past several years, I would say, but maybe this one on a different level. How do you reflect back on your 2023?
Yeah, the highs and lows. My dad died. That was a loss, literally and figuratively. But I got engaged. So from that sense of like personal relationship, romantic life, like best year of my life so far when it comes to that. I got COVID again in August and have since picked up like at least 4 other upper respiratory infections. So I really haven't had a day since August where I've felt good, which is awful. But went to Disney World and Universal Studios a couple times this year. And when I think back professionally on 2023, I've had this Beat Well business for over a decade now, where most of that work is drum circle programming for groups of quote unquote non-musicians, where I'm introducing concepts or facilitating things like wellness and leadership development and community building. And I had my best gig a few months ago in which I facilitated 25 CEOs of Baltimore area nonprofits for 90 minutes. And like, I loved it. It was great. The work was great. The compensation was great. I felt like I could just be myself. Early in my career, if I was working with an audience like that, I may have put on the button shirt. I may have, let's say, cursed a bit less. I may have questioned, should I wear nail polish or not today? And I've learned more and more, just show up as me, whatever that means. Trust in myself, whatever that means. And generally, people receive that positively. So that was great. Beyond that, this is the first full year, I guess at this point, second full year, where I've been a more traditional psychotherapist. And that was something I started during lockdown to see, is this a career track that I'm interested in continuing longer term? Prior to that, most of my clinical career has been drum circle group therapy, or using rhythm as a therapeutic modality. So this is more traditional talk therapy. And it turns out I really, really like it, love it. And it's been very effective for the people I work with. I get a lot of good feedback in the ways in which I'm able to receive feedback from clients and colleagues and things like that. And at this point, at least doing it virtually, it's something I can see myself doing part-time for decades to come. So like I feel good about that. It's like, let me explore this. And I have been doing that, and it's working out pretty well for me.
Interesting pivot, I guess, from within the space of, I guess, psychotherapy, to be able to go from drum circling to essentially just kind of talking.
Well, lockdown fuck shit up, we could say.
Mhm.
So when there's a global pandemic, I can't do in-person drum groups anymore. And then I've again had a lot of illness the past couple years, and then things with, like, my dad and stuff like that, just life stuff. And being able to work with people virtually has been a game changer, where I can be contagious but still feel well enough to provide the service that my clients deserve. And I don't get a salary, so if I'm sick or if I have to tend to a family emergency, I don't make money, and that can be an issue. So having the virtual option was the game changer for me, and I'm really glad that that has been normalized much more over the past few years, because I have found it to be at least as effective as in-person psychotherapy.
Well, let's do some virtual interacting right now with the post wrestling audience. We're going to try again, this time with better Wi-Fi on his end. Brandon from New Jersey. Let's try it one more time. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Now we
Yeah,
can.
you sound like shit.
What's up, guys? Don't let Neil fool you. He's a big fan of Moneybag Yo and Key Glock with his musical taste.
Massive, yeah. Were they in the Tony genre, Brandon? New Jack Swing?
New Jack Swing. Yeah, that's the best R&B and hip hop of that. It was New Jack Swing. I loved it. Bobby Brown, come on, can't beat that.
Bobby.
Yeah. So my year was up and down like Jordan's. Went through some struggle early in the year in my personal life, with not with me, but someone in my family who, almost took their lives, and it was a tough deal early in the year, but that person's overcome that situation and is better from it, hopefully, and is, and I got a lot of good. Ended up in Toronto this summer with Neil. Fist bumping Tanahashi, and that whole weekend was fun. Watching Neil do sake bombs.
Yes.
Hugging Wai at the before the post was a good vibe.
I hugged Wai multiple times that weekend. Yeah, the goodbye one was probably the biggest at the end of Forbidden Porn.
We got a big group hug, I think, coming up in Philadelphia.
Oh my God, that's gonna be crazy.
Can't wait. Revelatory meeting you in person, Brandon, because you're the same guy, of course, but it's so cool, and I'll never forget you looking after me. I've mentioned this multiple times on multiple podcasts lately, but you did. You looked after me when I was a wee bit incapacitated before Forbidden Door started.
Oh man,
was this as a result of Steve Grows Weed?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I completely underestimated the strength of Steve Grows Weed's weed. So I was huffing this stuff, thinking this is nothing, and then
okay, well,
like a ton of bricks. A few minutes later, I was like, where am I? And who am I?
Because you brought it up, we have to welcome the man here. Steve Grows Weed, welcome to the Wellness Policy. What do you have to say for what you did to our poor man, Neal Flanagan here?
He's not.
You're muted. You're muted.
He's high.
Yeah.
Why is this not working? Okay.
There he is.
Yeah, man. I'm actually very proud of that. I can't say I'm not. I love that story. Yeah, I mean, because the stuff tastes so good, it goes down so smooth, so you don't realize what's about to happen to you, right? So.
And you know what the funny thing was? After the event, we met up with Steve Grows Weed. Guess what Neil did? He took another hit.
Amazing.
Yeah, who else was with us? There was another person with us.
Robert?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Yeah.
And Hiroshi Tanahashi, I hear.
Yeah, we got him high too.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the fist bump was. You're passing him something, Brandon.
Absolutely, man.
That's Tanahashi's secret weapon. That's why
high fly flow.
Long. Yeah.
Was it? So I guess it was my fault that he was so sluggish that weekend.
Exactly. I think we figured it out.
Another fun thing was going to Gabby's and and leaving while everyone went to Drom when I first came to the city, and wandered the streets of Toronto to get to my temporary hotel room at some swanky hotel in downtown Toronto. And
Yeah, you were staying at the most expensive hotel in the entire city.
I was in a temporary room though, and I didn't know that the temporary room keys are separated from the other places, like we're commoners. So I ended up walking around in circles inside that building for like a good 2 hours.
Well, you probably know the city better than I do at this point.
Oh man, it was fun, man. I passed the Hockey Hall of Fame like 3 times. I look like a vagrant, but luckily the streets are safe out there, and nobody was gonna bother me, so I could walk alone like Batista. But that was fun.
Can I just say, I'll just finish my point. But like I've seen Brandon in person several times at this point. But like I don't think we've ever really like spent that much time together.
No.
Like our interactions are very fleeting. It's usually like in the same group, and then it's like, "Hey, Brandon, how's it going?" It's kind of very jokey, and then like we don't really have that much time to like simmer. You know what I mean? In person, just yet.
It was during the karaoke after the show, and I seen Wai, and I just asked him a random question about Asians and hip hop, and he broke it down for me, and then we were like, "Oh, okay, see ya." And then he just, we went our separate. It's like I've known the guy for like 30 years, and if I see him, I see him. It's all good pleasantries.
Well, you'll text me. Like, let me specify. You'll send me something like ridiculous every single day.
Absolutely.
But I'm still waiting for that in person sort of transition, and maybe we'll get there in Philadelphia.
Well, maybe we'll see. But
Brandon, sorry, Brandon, will you be crashing somewhere in Philly, or you're doing a daily commute?
There's a train station right near my house, so I'm like, that's the way I'll be coming in and out of the city.
You'll be able to crash with the BSK guys, I'm sure. If the
offer's been already extended to me, so we'll see what happens as we get closer. As many people know, I'm very good at procrastinating. I'm awful planner. That's one of the things I need to work on, is like being more organized, because my life is in chaos, like my love life right now. But yeah, I gotta be that.
Please tell us more.
Yeah.
No, I'm just in a little shooter slump. That's all. The fish aren't biting towards the end of the year. I guess everybody's all cuffed up. We gotta wait till like.
What's been your dating approach?
Oh, is the Wi-Fi conveniently bad right now? What a cliffhanger!
We were getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to wait. In the meantime, there you are. Hello.
I missed what you said. I'm sorry.
What's your dating approach? Like, are you on these apps, or are you going out?
I am on those apps. Those app streets. They were bumping like early, like from September to before November. They were bumping, and there's a lot of positive vibes, and then just the well dried up. The wellness policy dried up, and I was like, well, what did I do? What's wrong with me? And I had to analyze myself and take proper steps to remedy that situation. So we'll see what happens.
It's been well over a year since we did the dating episode. Perhaps something we can revisit again. But
that's great.
I'm curious, Brandon, what's your general like trajectory from match on a dating app to like date in person?
Oh, it's like 2 nights right away. Like bang, whatever the schedule dictates. Like when I'm free, like work and stuff like that. And so,
but you're not just like doing endless texting. You're trying to make something progress.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to make. I'm all about that action, boss. I'm trying to make it happen, like rapido. Like let's go. Let's get down to negotiations. Let's hang out and vibe. See how we go and whatnot. See if we vibe. I mean, I've told Wai this. Like I'm a big proponent of hanging out in the Asian communities for my taste. But yeah. I mean. I was in a situation for a bit, and it didn't work out. I was telling Wai about that a while ago. didn't work out way. That we
Brand-
parted on good terms.
Brandon is actually like my go-to I guess a person when I need advice on deciphering Korean dating shows. He's the person with the most sort of a background in history and knowledge, and the man is a prophet, I guess, when it comes to Korean dating shows and Korean dating in general.
And one more thing before I get out of here, I don't want to hog my time. The podcast with Martin and Dicky Bird. It's also been fun doing that once a month. I don't want to plug or anything like that, but
Wow.
Oh wow!
As I sip from my Bushby, Brandon, and Bird Ambrose mug, available at chop-tees.com. Congratulations.
It's been
wonderful.
It's been fun doing that with those guys, and hope more episodes to come in the future.
I actually made a video based on that podcast. You guys were talking about different songs that Mox could come out to, and you had said something like "Come At Me." I don't know what the song was, but I misheard it as "Take On Me" by Aha. So I went on my online and I found a video of him coming out to the ring and muted the sound and just put on "Take On Me" by Aha over top of it, put it up on YouTube. It's pretty awesome.
That is the phase of John Moxley I think we're all waiting for. I mean, he's already become John Moxley from Dean Ambrose. I think when someday, maybe when he gets into his 60s, he can have his 80s like synth pop phase.
My dream is for him to come out to "Music Sounds Better Than You" by Stardust.
That would be great.
Amazing.
I could see that.
Yeah.
That'd be a vibe. All right, guys. Love you guys. You know how I feel about y'all. Steve grows weed as a champion. Love you. Hope to see you guys in the spring. I'm very excited.
Definitely.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Brandon. Hey, Steve. Let's spend some time focusing on you. How has your year been? And tell us.
Year's been crazy. It's always crazy. The last couple of years have been crazy. My life has been whirlwind. I changed jobs this year and then ended up going back to the job I had like a week and a half later because it wasn't the right fit.
What do you do besides growing weed?
I'm a machinist.
And you changed jobs to just a different machining?
I applied to this place randomly, and it was and they offered me a job, and it was a little more money. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try this out. Right? Got there, it was about a week and a half in, and it's like you spend a lot of time at work, right? So it's like, if the vibe ain't there, you're not going to enjoy your life. That's the way I kind of look at it, right? And my last place was great. The people in there are a great group of guys, mostly guys. And we just all get along so well. So I was like in this new place and I'm just like, I'm not feeling this. Everybody just kind of sticks to themselves. Nobody has any kind of vibe. There's no like feeling of warmth in this place. And then I'm like, how am I going to feel about this place in 6 months? And I had left on good terms, and I kept joking with the people I was working with, even the owners. I was just like, if they're a bunch of assholes when I get over there, I'm coming back. You know that, right? And they're like, And then about a week and a half later, I just started texting people. I'm like, what if I did? And they welcomed me back with open arms. It's been a real good fit. So it's like, you got to go with your, like, money's nice, but you got to think about your mental health. That's a big thing, So it's like, and that's kind of what I decided to do.
Good for you for prioritizing that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. You spend like 40 plus hours a week at a place. You can't be miserable.
Yes, I was going to mention that. With the full-time job, the amount of time that you're using every week in a particular place with particular people can be... and just to go back very briefly to what Jordan was saying about one of the silver linings, and there weren't many, but one of the silver linings of the pandemic was a greater use in the kind of line of work I'm in, at least, of remote working. And it means that, for example, in my job, I was getting very tired of the office sort of rat race commute, 9 to 5, sit in front of a computer all day in an office, managers around, all of that kind of stuff. It's exactly what you would imagine it to be if you've never been in that environment. And then, into the traffic again at the rush hour of everybody going home. And that's been drastically reduced because of the amount of work that I can do from home. Because they had to do it during the pandemic because we weren't allowed to come into the office altogether. And so that became a work from home policy that has endured. And for my job satisfaction, wellness, that has been great. So no, salute to you, Steve, for doing the right thing by yourself. And as you say, if it's a little less money, doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, we're going in negotiations this spring for more money, so I mean, hopefully that'll kind of fix that problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like I don't make good money, like decent money at least. I'm not like rich by any means, but I mean, I make comfortable money. So I mean, that little bit extra, of course, it would have been nice, but it wasn't going to be worth whatever mental health issues I would have had by staying in a place that was basically where I felt like a robot, right? So
Yeah.
It's
how do you
something
feel about how do you feel about working from home? Do you get fulfillment there, or do you feel like you lose a bit of human connection?
I've worked through, to be honest, Jordan and I have worked through quite a bit on this because post-pandemic, it was all work from home, and I had managed to get myself into a little bit of a kind of a cocoon state where, if that makes sense, where this is my safe space. I'm kind of a bit of a homebody anyway. It's okay, that I'm not seeing as many people in life. And I sort of came to the realization that that's not particularly healthy. So I'm rebalancing because, I've divulged my age before. I've been in this job since the 2000s, 2003 or something like that. I've been working in the same job. So to cut a long story short, just making more of an effort to connect with friends in real life, get out of the house and into some fresh air more, all of that, small steps. I had managed to become a bit of a hermit at one stage, which can be easily something that you fall into.
Yeah, I was basically going to say the same thing. Ever since like starting this job, one of the big aspects I've missed is having that sort of office culture and relationships with people that you're actually, sharing a physical space with, for your work. So I mean, there's a great benefit to being the convenience of working from home that I would probably never give up. But there's also something wonderful about being in the same space physically with the same people every single day, hopefully that you enjoy.
Yeah, my wife, she started a new career and she was working from home for a while, and it just got to the point she's like, I don't put on makeup, I don't get out of pajamas, like I don't do, so she ended up getting a job in an office, and she still does that other job part-time on the side, so she works from home for that. But she's like, she's a social person as well, where I go a little bit more back and forth, but she loves to be social. So to be just cooped up in her house all day, every day was tough. So she got out in the world and she feels a lot more fulfilled that way. And she doesn't mind having the days where she can work from home, but yeah, she's loving being in the office. She kind of realized that it just wasn't for her, right? And I guess everybody's different, right? Yeah. I think I would like a balance of both. I don't get that in machining though. Nobody's going to put a big machine in my living room. So
the social aspect is obviously important. And the only time I really had colleagues that I would interact with daily was the couple years I worked with or at Ring of Honor, going to the office most days than not.
I didn't know you worked at Ring of Honor.
Shut the fuck up. So, and I'm still friends with some of them, and some of them like it's whatever, and not all of them like me. I'll put it that way. But I'm certainly an acquired taste, and am known to be a shit disturber for my own amusement. But beyond that,
Matt Taven,
love the guy. So for me, it's been I've had to be very mindful about like setting up social plans for myself, because even when I wasn't doing that job, like whether it's music lessons or the therapy work or coaching work, I'm working with people, so it's social, but I'm in service of those people. So for most of my career, I needed to make sure that I was, especially when I lived on my own, that I was making plans, social plans. So that obviously, one of the things though, I needed to be more mindful, especially like lockdown and doing my work from home, is making sure I'm getting outside of the house and moving my body. And so if I'd go to the Ring of Honor office, like, yeah, I was sitting on my ass for a lot of the day, but I would take lunch breaks, if only to just move my body and get fresh air. Now it's comfortable at home, but I've gained significant weight for me over the past couple years, like 10 to 15 pounds. And so with a frame like mine, I feel that. And a lot of that is because I've been sick, and especially last year, to exercise, it created more discomfort. But it can be easy or feel attractive in the moment to just like hang on the couch after I've worked with clients on the couch. So I've had to really hold myself to account to just moving my body and getting out of my house. I've noticed for many years, like the more time I spend indoors in my home, the more anxious I will become. And by simply walking to go get a coffee instead of making something at home, like that can create enough momentum to make me feel less stagnant energetically.
And it does. It's hard as it is to like exercise breeds energy, where everybody's like, oh, I feel tired, I need to rest. It's like a lot of times you probably need to get up, but it's hard. Like I'm in counseling right now, and one of the homeworks I got was go out hiking, because that's something I've always done all my life. It's like been an outdoors guy. In the last couple of years, my life's been like a roller coaster, and I just haven't been taking that time to go out and do that. So that was one of the things. It's like get out in the woods, right? And yeah, I've tried to do it as much as I can. I mean, holiday season is just crazy because you're always shopping. Yeah. But beyond that, it's like, trying to reconnect with that. It's been great. It's been amazing.
That's cool to hear, Steve, because you have a couple of Instagram accounts, and I follow both of them. And one of them is more your business, and the other is more your personal stuff. And that was the one I followed first, and I loved it because you were constantly out on trails, hiking and stuff like that. And I did notice that sort of at least the posts begin to sort of dry up a little bit.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle noticed that too. My aunt and uncle thought I was hanging out with my parents, and they're just like, "Yeah, Uncle Jack's wondering why you're not out in the trails anymore. Why aren't you making posts about that? He loved that stuff." I'm just like, all right, it's being noticed. I got to handle this. So I've been trying to do it, but again, with the, I'm really going to make an effort in the like after Monday, basically, to get out there a lot more, and just try to. I got 10 days off. I'm going to try to put a lot of those days on the trail. So.
Well, Steve, you popped up as a suggested Facebook friend a couple of days ago. I assumed we just were. And then I realized, oh yeah, like where'd that guy go? So I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, it is good to see you, man. I don't really know where I went. I've been, I'm a strange dude where it's like, I'm very social, but I'm very awkward at the same time. It's like,
that's all of us.
So, so it's like, there's times where I'm just like ready to talk, and there's other times where I just shut up. So it's like, all right, just back off. Or if I'm going through something in my head, I just kind of disappear for a while, right? So,
well, maybe try smoking weed.
Oh, I do too. Oh, but even that, I went through a thing where I was going through some asthma because I've got a bit of asthma, and for some reason it flared out. All of a sudden, I can't smoke as much weed, and all of a sudden, so it's like, you can't medicate the way you need to.
When you grow your own, Steve, can you do anything edible instead of smoking it?
I can. Yeah, in fact, I take a lot of the sugar leaves off the buds, and I put those aside, and that goes into like a butter or extract or whatever. So I can definitely I usually do make edibles that go with it. Yeah,
that's cool, because I tried edibles when I was in Canada as well. This is all just sort of.
Wow, quite the trip, quite the theme of the trip.
Well, when in Rome, and that part of Toronto, which Cabbage Town is where I was staying. It's kind of an old, I suppose, my lineage sent me there because it was an old Irish settling place, apparently. I think it's probably why it's called Cabbage Town. Anyway, practically every corner has a dispensary, and I just thought, I'll go in and see what's what. And I'm not much of a smoker, so there was like gummies and stuff like that. And I thought, this is quite like this. They should. I'm now in favor of it being legalized over here because it's not.
Were you opposed prior?
No, that's good. That's a very good point, Jordan. No, I wasn't opposed prior. But I suppose I'm more. I would sign a petition. I would do something to sort of campaign for it. I know. Can you imagine the effort involved? But whereas I would just sort of sit on my ass. I think that we did before I joined the show. I certainly remember the episode. I think Damien joined, Braden joined, Steve, I'm sure you were there. It was really all about weed, and
I think so.
I
I
know
think that's where I
it's-
started here.
Yeah. Steve, thank you for checking in.
All right. Cheers.
and
Merry Christmas. Happy
You too,
Hanukkah.
Steve.
Talk to you next year.
Bye,
All right. Cheers, guys.
Let's go up next. By the way, everybody, if you're just tuning in, we are taking open calls about anything and everything in our end of year special. You can find the link in the show description or in the live chat room. Let's go up next to Hansy. Welcome, Hansy.
Oh, look at you, Hansy. Living
What's
large.
going on? What's
Hey,
that?
Hansy.
Living. You in Miami right now?
No, I'm at Beverly Hills 90210 house, man.
Ah, very nice.
And
Very nice.
I've gone to the that's one thing I've done this year. Gone to the fascination of putting backgrounds in the whether it's Tony Soprano's house or the Walsh's house in 90210 and shit.
Couldn't tell.
That's all good, man. I mean, yeah, no, I've been enjoying the show, man. I don't know. I've been up and down this year, so it's hard to know, especially when you have mental illness. So it's hard to know which is like more positive, which is more negative, because it feels like every day like there's more negativity in your head because when you have mental illness, like the pain doesn't stop. So I guess I've been seeing a therapist, so I mean at least that's like one positive, I guess.
That's new this year, Hansy?
What's that?
Is that something new this year, Hansy?
Well, I did it in the early 2000s when I had issues in school, and then I don't think I was ready for it back then because I wasn't ready to open up and know who I was basically. And then in 2007 I started doing it, and I felt this is just my conspiratorial thinking. For some reason, the woman didn't want to see me anymore, and it felt it was like Stern Show level stuff where it felt like it was manipulation behind the scenes. But then I kind of gave up on it, and then recently, I don't know, I just with just personal stuff, constantly it's like a playlist in your head of past diss songs of people disrespecting you playing in your head on loop, and then mentally you're writing your own songs of how you're gonna diss them basically, and that's where my mind goes, and I don't like when my mind goes that way, but I have to confront it, right? So that's why I started kind of getting out a little bit. I mean, I gained a lot of weight too during the pandemic. I mean, even before that, and I don't know, sometimes I wonder if I'm gonna be here still, whatever. But that's why I kind of started going out and doing a bit of comedy, even though I still haven't been able to definitively remember material. I kind of think that I can go off the top of my head. I just want to get comfortable in front of a crowd. I've been there. I've been doing it for the past 2 months now, I guess.
That's huge, Hansy. I can't imagine myself doing that. I wouldn't even. I didn't even partake in the karaoke after Forbidden Door back in June because I wasn't drunk enough, frankly. So
I'm waiting for the next post wrestling event where there's karaoke. So because I'm ready to sing my ass off in a horrible way. I've listened to a lot of music too. Plus I go through random stuff on my Apple Music radio station, and I've been discovering the thing is I'm mostly in hip hop, right? But the thing is I like all kinds of music. I just don't have time to listen to all kinds of music. But over the maybe because I listen to Sopranos, it opened my eyes to different bands that I was missing out on. For example, this year I've been fascinated with Bob Dylan for some reason. I just think Bob Dylan's music is really cool. And I discovered this UK punk rock band, Dead Letter, which I really think is a really good band. Mystery Lights, I think they're from New York or something like that. So I've been discovering new music. But as far as the stand-up stuff goes, here's the thing: a week ago or so, I had the worst experience doing material because it's a late night setting, right, where the host you can do stand-up or you can sit down, right? And there's been a whole routine where I sit on the couch and I can't get up, which is I kind of add to the comedy of that. But there was no co-host sitting on the inflatable couch, so I sat down and it fell down. So it's the most stand, and then the set went horribly because I couldn't concentrate. I was trying to play some Bill Burr on the screen, so I turned to a Bill Burr listening party. But it was actually the most fun because it was so chaotic. And not everything was going right, but 10 years ago, if that happened, that would have sent me in a spiral, and I would be crying in bed and not bitching nonstop about it on Twitter or whatever. But I actually had fun with that, And last week at Comedy Bar, there was like some random guy that came on stage, and again, like it's like the Howard Stern show can't escape me because it was like a crackhead, and he lit crack at the end of his set, so they had to kick him out. Out of the Comedy Bar, basically. But like, it just been a wild environment. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I can memorize my material. But it just like it's really. I have ideas for material, but it's just like I don't know how to memorize it, and then I kind of like have to improvise. But sometimes my improvisation skills aren't that strong. I guess
Either way, I very much admire and respect the fact that you do it. I consider myself someone who likes being the center of attention and performed music many hundreds of times publicly. Stand-up comedy to me feels like the most vulnerable art form for many reasons. One, it's typically just you, and you're not doing it with a group of friends. And you are so dependent on the response of the audience. This is why pandemic wrestling sucked, I thought, for the most part, because there wasn't an audience to engage with. So for you to have, let's say, an experience of bombing in stand-up, and to be able to just like dust it off and be willing to do it again, and to realize like you don't win them all, like good on you, man, because that would be scary for me, to be honest, to do that.
I thought it'd be scary for me too, man.
And it still may be, but the point is you do it.
Yeah, I know. The thing is like I don't have. I fit the comedian aesthetic to a T because I don't really have a license, right? It wasn't that I didn't want to do it. So it's like I have to take a lift. So it's like I have to be picky and choosy with which days I go and all that. And I think I'm going to the Comedy Bar too much, so I gotta explore other things just to do stand up to because I'm getting too comfortable in the late night talk show setting. But I'm enjoying the people there. You know what I mean? Because the people that work there. There's been a lot of comedians that actually come up to me and go, Hansy from the Howard Stern show, basically. You know what I mean? Or if it's not that, I'm name dropping it. But I've met some pretty cool comics and. And for the most part, I guess because the wrestling discourse has got so crazy that it kind of motivated me to go, what, I can't be doing this for another decade or so. I did enough during the 2010s, right? So I still want to watch wrestling and all that, but I feel like the discourse has overshadowed a lot of the product, even though this is why I come to this show, because even though there's discourse going on, you guys concentrate on the actual shows and try to come up with some solutions. I just feel people just are more enamored with doing faction warfare of who's right and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes it just, I guess it reminds me of how ugly that I used to be in that kind of world, because I used to be a culture warrior type of deal, getting involved with every type of thing. But now I just find the comfort of doing my podcast, a mentally ill podcast, where I rant and all that for a couple of hours, and then just kind of have it to myself, basically, you know what I mean, and get comfortable expressing my ideas, even if all of them are not going to hit, So I've been doing that, listening to comforting podcasts like this, obviously, and just listening to music that kind of gets me going. Otherwise, I live in a morbid reality, man, where and again, this is not to depress the whole thing, but I hate when I go to the mental illness thing and I get irrational, especially during this time of the year, and I'm looking forward to going, oh, look, assisted suicide is going to be legalized. And I don't like thinking that way, but sometimes I'm so messed in my misery that it feels like the only option in my head, because just all the craziness that's accumulating, you know what I mean? Because I don't know, I just look at the future and sometimes I don't see good things, essentially.
What has therapy done for you so far in the time that you've started?
Oh, no. Well, I guess expressing that, what they call in ease, I guess, just being I'm not saying that I want to do that, or I express it to the therapy, and sometimes she doesn't know what to say, and sometimes I feel like an asshole because I'm going to these rants and she's just staring at me, and I'm you know what I mean, but sometimes it's I realize that if I'm just around negativity or something that reminds me of my past, it makes me go to that level. But sometimes I hold back. Obviously, I go and I type irrationally so I can melt this away, and then I feel better, where I can express where my irrational mind goes. Not that I'm proud of like my mind going there, but like I have to confront it, and other people might feel the same way too when they're irrational. So maybe they need somebody to like talk about, like, oh look, I'm in the same boat, kind of, in a way. I don't like, I'm not encouraging anything or any of that. I just sometimes like
I know.
you get so angry with the world and all that, where you just like, I guess I feel more. I guess therapy has made me feel more comfortable, at least confronting my irrational thoughts, I guess.
Mhm.
Cool. I'll just say we love you. We're happy you're here. We're happy you're part of this community. And in therapy, like if you're ever having thoughts about your therapist's experience of the session or of you, or if you're having perceptions about her and what's going on, like that's all fair game to bring up in the therapeutic conversation. In fact, the way that I'm kind of oriented to doing that work is very much relationship based. And I think a lot can be illuminated from what's happening between the two human beings engaging in the therapy, meaning the client and the therapist. Because oftentimes that can act like a mirror for how clients, relate to other people in life, or how they may be relating to us. So I don't know if that has been apparent to you or not, but it might be make for some interesting exploration with your therapist.
Yeah, no. I do bring up some of those topics, like if I can trust her, all that kind of stuff. Like,
Cool.
you know what I mean? She doesn't seem to mind it. She's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like, I think again, I hate name dropping this, but the show, rewatching it has helped me look at mental illness in a different light that I didn't appreciate before. But I think watching those Soprano therapy sessions have kind of like, because I didn't appreciate those sessions when I first watched it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I used to think that it was all boring and nothing was going on, but there's actually more going on because they're expressing what mental illness is and where your thoughts go. And I actually appreciate that. So I try not to be like Tony Soprano in these sessions, but like I do like kind of make these kind of comments. It's kind of influenced off of that. But listen, I don't want to talk you guys' ear off. Thanks for letting me on, man. And I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and hopefully I'll be here for the New Year, man. Hopefully we're this Earth is still around, basically, if it hasn't blown up or anything like that, man. So I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you again. Peace out.
Peace to you, Hansy.
Thank you, Hansy, as always. Let's go up next to Dicky Bird in Australia. Welcome, Dicky Bird.
There he is.
On the farm.
What's going on?
Hi, Dicky.
Hey, Dicky.
Hi everyone. I don't know. I usually what happens. I know that you guys do a show, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm definitely going to watch. I probably won't call in, and then as I watch, I think, yeah, okay, I'll give you guys a call.
A lot of change for you this year.
Well, I think that's another reason. I mean, I even just think about where I was on the very first day of the year, and people don't know this, but I had been, well, I guess I would later on be diagnosed with having a major depressive episode, which I didn't really mention to anybody because I didn't really understand it. It was very, very strange. I just felt nothingness, for about 3 months. And a lot of this came from, and you guys know, and probably some people out there know, that I've had just some ups and downs with my health. And I was of the impression that I was on the up and I was going to be going back to work in February. And then I was informed that, it's not up, it's down, the house. So it's just, bouncing around basically. And that, I guess I had my hopes up too much and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I just funnily enough, I played Farming Simulator probably about 18 hours a day, every day, to the point where I was like, I don't really want to do anything else. I don't want to get up and all that sort of stuff. I wasn't sad or anything. I felt nothing. I don't even really remember the time. It was just all sort of blank. But eventually I managed to snap myself out of it. And I looked at kind of what the deal was. And I was just thinking to myself all of the time, like, how am I going to get back to work? How what am I going to do? Like I can't let go of this job. And then I just woke up one day and I was just like, maybe you should just let go of this job, And I called my boss and I just said, look, I don't think I'm ever coming back. I didn't know that, who knows? But I mean, it was just bad for my mental health every day, kind of chasing something that I had no control over. So it was kind of like time to take the control back, even if that control was just saying it's gone, this kind of thing. So yeah, I called him and I said, I'm never coming back. I don't, and he, I guess, I was, I had some entitlements, that I sort of thought I could probably use, some financial entitlements with the job, like annual leave saved up in this country. You get paid it out when you quit or whatever. Yeah. And I thought I could probably use that for, the baby and stuff, buying your car and all that sort of thing. And my boss was like, well, actually, you've called at the right time because I think I can offer you a redundancy package. So I was like, oh, wow. And so all of a sudden it's like, me taking this really giant step that I didn't want to take, while still, I guess the better idea would be being healthy and going back to work. I was, kind of, I guess, still benefited more than I thought I would from that. So as soon as I did that, I just instantly kind of snapped out of it. Obviously from a day-to-day living, paying bills thing, I, had been getting taken care of from an insurance perspective and stuff. So I still didn't really need to worry about that. But yeah, I kind of was like, okay, I'm back. And that was in February, I guess, February, March. Mm-hmm. Baby came in April. Man, I'll tell you what, and it's feeling good now, but Wai, I don't know how you thought when you had Oscar, but like it was brutal at the start and it's gotten easier over time, despite people telling you, oh, when they're so young, it's so much easier. And then they start, doing this and it gets crazier. And I miss the days when they were just a little baby. And I'm like, I never want to go back to that. That was just like,
I wonder if you will. Like, I'm very curious because I heard those same things and I had those same exact thoughts. I don't know how much of it is just simply colored by like, so oftentimes when I think back to any period of like, Oscar's like 1.5 years at this point, I only think about like good things. And I don't know how much of my memory and recollection is just simply colored by like only remembering the good things. But every step is going to be difficult. I'm sure you'll talk to people that are parents of teenagers that'll never wish that upon anybody, and they'll wish for like the times when their kids were toddlers and they had to chase them around. But every step has its own challenges, at least from what I've discovered so far in a very short amount of time. But I think you'll see the benefit to maybe your current period. But I also completely understand why you would feel that way, especially if you had a tough time with a baby that might not be sleeping as well, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, what? Famously, because a friend of the show and a friend of ours, Neil, Adam Joyce, he had his baby, his daughter, I guess 6 months before, something like that.
Yeah,
and when Harry was born, he said to me, babies sleep 17 hours a day, so enjoy this time. And my response, like a week afterwards, was, sorry, when is this supposed to start? When does he do this? I don't understand. Like I don't know. Like, and there's nothing wrong with him. He's just very on. Like he's just obsessed. Yeah, it is very normal. I don't know whose baby it is because it's definitely not, he doesn't get it from me or my partner. Like, he's so outgoing. Like, he's just so social and just wants to experience everything. And it's kind of why I say the first 4 weeks was brutal, because we weren't really maternal people, just at heart. I mean, we're obviously getting, we'll have adapted, but we were just like, what does this baby want? And the older that he gets, the easier it is to understand what it is that he wants, I guess, is kind of one of the reasons why I say the first 4 weeks was brutal, because I mean, he couldn't even see anything, and so it's like, so
I could totally maybe sympathize with that, because like as adorable as he is right now, like my wife will always talk about like, oh, I'm gonna miss this time so much. He's never going to be cuter than this. Well, for one thing, I think kids can be cute, like really at any age. For two, like I totally understand some of the photos are just like, they're just awesome, like wonderful to just look back on right now. But I can't wait till this kid can tell me exactly what he wants, so I don't have to guess. And I don't have to deal, like he doesn't have to suffer really. And we don't have to suffer with his constant crying. So yeah, I totally get that.
So anyway, enough baby talk.
And then you bought a farm.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, well, I don't have a job anymore. So why am I living in a shoebox in, suburban metro city kind of thing? And it was like, we wanted to buy a place, and I guess the thought was, well, we don't have to stay in this region. So, it was kind of the dream. And this was the sort of dream that came up from the pandemic, because I have a romantic feeling about the pandemic, because it was just this I found the whole thing so fascinating. I know it was very hard for a lot of people, and I was quite fortunate that it wasn't so hard for me. I think if I had a child during that, it would be even, I then sympathize with people who say, I want to go back to the office, please. But
throughout human history, I really do feel like, we were, I guess, subjected to, I think, an incredibly unique experience.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was wild.
But at the time, we were just like, man, wouldn't it be so much better if we just had this like big, biggish property that was out of the way, couldn't see anybody? Because that was the biggest problem that I had with the pandemic, because everybody was at home. So my neighbors were just like the most annoying bastards ever. They never left. But yeah, so we just fell in love with this idea, and then sort of managed to make it happen this year, and finally have sort of settled in. And then I launched a merchandise company, which is funny because I actually, ties into the whole thing. I started working on this in February when I was depressed. I was talking to Braden, and he didn't really know what was going on with me, but he was just suggesting things like, oh, you should do this, and for my own designs. You can see it on the screen.
You're an apparel entrepreneur now, Dicky Bird.
Yeah. I mean, people don't really know this about me, but I mean, the last few years of my job, I was, I'd moved kind of on from design, being a designer, and actually managing design, like the design experience of applications and websites and support. So for some reason, I found myself this year thinking to myself, I actually have a lot of knowledge and experience in not just from a managerial perspective, but even things like knowing what people want from not just customers, but even clients, stakeholders, sorts of things. And so, at the moment, my job, I'm not selling T-shirts. I let Braden and Davey and Jordan do that, because that's their merchandise on there. It's not mine. I have a couple of shirts, obviously, but at the moment, my job is now putting together a thing to present to new brands to come on board and give them a package that is a lot more attractive than going somewhere else, and giving them things like interactive reports, enabling them to be able to just, I don't know, log on one day and be like, oh, how much am I making? What are my margins on my apparel, so that I know if I want to run a discount, I know how much to, all that sort of stuff, so that no one talks to me. This the whole goal is so that no one actually has to communicate with me, and it builds other people. It empowers them to do their own thing. So that's the sort of thing. So like, yeah, I do this with the interest of automating the whole entire process, or at least as much as possible. And I have a meeting with somebody tomorrow about something that I think is going to be like really exciting for any new brands that come on board. But anyway, that's the type of thing. It's actually, and it's been this wild thing where I've just been doing it right. I've been taking my time. I've had people approach me about coming on board, selling their stuff on the website, and I'm like, definitely interested, but you just have to wait because I'm not ready for that yet. It's going to be a couple of months. Need to make sure everything is perfectly running, because if I bring too many people on and then I need to make adjustments and changes, it just multiplies the amount of work. I literally had someone on the first day of launch that I want to sell my stuff on your website.
It's great.
And I just, it is great. And a previous me would just be like, gotta strike while the iron's hot. But at the moment, it's actually more like you need to make sure that your offering is the absolute best thing possible. So Braden and Davey have been the perfect test subject, and Jordan, we obviously launched the detox line yesterday, and you know, it's been funny, even just like things like setting you up in the system, and there was a few headaches, and then being me just writing it down, just being like, okay, I need like an onboarding pack for every person that comes on, so they can follow and they know what to do and they don't get lost, because I sent them a bunch of links through Facebook Messenger and all that sort of stuff. So it's been really, really fascinating for me to kind of go through that, and I'm really excited about the future. So yeah, anybody listening to me rant and rave right now, I guess February will be the when you can expect some new brands to come on board, and not before then.
Chop-tees.com, where you can find all of Dicky's work, as well as the Detox collection featuring Braden Harrington and Jordan Goodman as well. Wonderful.
And I just want to say thank you to all of you guys as well. And Wai, you and John, like, I've never once ever asked you to plug anything, whether it is at the merchandise store or Eagles Don't Hunt Flies or any of the stuff in the past, like Up Next stuff that I did. But you guys have always just, you got your finger on the pulse, and you're just so kind. So I want to thank you for that. And I mean, you know, Jordan, you've always been in and around, and I've always loved this show, and I really enjoy Detox as well. And I think you've been the most, you've helped me a lot with death and understanding it, even before your father passed away. Just your overall concept with it is something that I've really, really struggled with, and it's still a bit of a struggle, but you've helped me understand it. And Neal, a good friend, always a good friend, and we have a good laugh on the Dicky Discord that I have. So you know, Merry Christmas to all of you, Happy New Year. And this year has been insane, but I would have said that about the previous year and the previous year before then and the previous year before then. So I'm interested to see this time next year when I call into the show what has happened. And I always have this on my desk as well, Wai.
Lovely. Wonderful.
This is Eric's, though. I stole it from him. He left it at the apartment in Toronto, so I took it.
I will,
my one's on the one you gave me is on my Maple Leafs jersey.
I more than honored. And thank you for checking in, Dicky, and all the best with Chop Tees and everything else on the farm.
Love you, Dicky.
Yeah, satisfied customer here, by the way. Nothing's arrived yet, but I only placed the order yesterday, and the process was extremely clean, quick, and continual updates about what's been dispatched. And Dicky, Dicky, 2024, one of the highlights is going to be meeting you in Philly.
Yes.
Because there's a couple more people I can tick off the list, yourself, Leone, and I'm sure if I start listing, I'll forget people, but people who I haven't met yet. And
When do you start isolating Neil though?
I have to make it this time, Dicky. It's a lot has been booked already, and there's either very limited refunds available or with flights none. So
tomorrow
I'll be there.
Is what you're saying. So you're isolating tomorrow.
If they need to load me on the plane on a stretcher, I'll be there. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, good. I'll meet you at the airport then. In a stretcher. All right, guys.
See you
Thanks,
soon,
Dicky.
Dicky.
Take care, Dicky.
Let's go to our final call of the evening, or afternoon, I should say, and maybe evening for this person, Aram.
Yay!
Hey, Aram.
Hey, bud. Where's your pretzel?
What pretzel?
I gave you a pretzel in the chat.
Oh,
Yes, great. Good job.
it's too late for me.
How's it going, dude?
It's going okay, my friends. I haven't been on for a long time.
No, you haven't.
You gonna give us a tour again?
No, this is my house. I don't think my wife wants me to do it.
It's good to see Aram. Can I just give a quick intro and I to your being here. I happen to know because Aram and I are in touch on WhatsApp and so on that the situation. I hope you won't mind me saying this, Aram. The situation that's happening in the Middle East at the moment has impacted upon you quite heavily, I know, and you even decided to sort of withdraw a little bit from the post-Discord, at least. You haven't been as social lately. I've tried to encourage you to come back. We're good people and all of that. So I'm interested to hear how you're doing.
Well, I'm doing fine, and it's like it's hard to feel bad about it when you're in a safe place and you have actually nothing to worry about. But then again, I stay away from social because I can't avoid seeing anything else. So it's pretty tough, and I make a lot of jokes. So it would be hard to me to make fun of the elderly or keep continue with doing anything. So it would be in good taste. So I've just been concentrating on the personal life and my work, which I showed you. We did a TV report on my job in Danish, of course, recently with my patients. So
You're featured on TV recently.
My coworker, and my patients are. I was luckily not on the. I don't like to be on camera at all,
Except on this show.
Yeah, and it takes me a lot to just do this. I've actually rather never be on camera. I don't know how you do it, Ray, all the time.
I guess you just kind of forget about it once you do it long enough, right?
Yeah, but I've seen you so many times that when I see you, I feel like, oh, it's a celebrity.
Oh, I don't know about that, dude. I'll tell you, it was a bit weird maybe to start because for years we were just doing this audio, right? I would say maybe we've kind of flirted with video in the past, but it wasn't until several years ago for post wrestling that we decided to do video consistently. And definitely it was a bit of a transition, but you do it every week, multiple times a week for hours, and you just kind of don't think about it anymore. So you'll get the same way if you do it often enough. Yeah. How has your year been otherwise around?
Well, it's been good. What the hell have I not done this year? Yeah. I was in London watching the All In show.
Without Neil.
That's
Without
right.
Neil, yeah.
Would you go again next year?
Hell no.
How
Why?
come? That's interesting.
I've been to some WWE shows in Germany, house shows, and in Copenhagen, and I was at a local indie show the day before that Neil got me tickets for, and it was really great experience. And
It was
those
Rev
two
Pro at the Copper Box.
yes, and I was with Chris Elliott and Joycey. They were really amazing to be with. But I felt like the indie wrestling fan tries to get themselves too much over. And I can enjoy it. It's like it felt like me being in a movie and people had to commentate about what they felt about the show. It was a nice experience. The show was amazing, but it was it takes a lot of me to go outside in like a big stadium. I'm like, I did it, and it was. If Neil comes next time, but I can count on him.
None of us
I'm
can.
very unreliable.
He even skipped out on our episode last month for a mere tummy ache, apparently. So it's been said many times, the three of us, me, Neil, and Wai, are planning to be in Philly for WrestleMania in April. I'm not completely sold on going to WrestleMania proper. To be honest, unless I get a really good ticket, because for me, stadium shows can be a really unpleasant experience as a fan, depending on where your seat is. Same thing with concerts for me too. Like, if I'm going to a concert, I want to see what the musicians' hands are doing, and I want to feel like I'm part of that energetic experience. And if I'm like far back on a lawn or in like an upper tier, sometimes it feels like similar to just watching it on TV. And at least for wrestling, I could be more comfortable simply watching it on TV in the Airbnb in Philly.
Yeah, I agree. I've been to several MMA events before, especially UFC events. And while, it's of course amazing to see the knockouts live, it's much better watching it on TV. Because I'm never going to be close on ringside anyway, or be that close anyway to get a ticket.
And I've never seen MMA live. I've seen boxing live, but even more so, I could see that being even a less enjoyable experience, because at least with pro wrestling, the point is for them to perform for the crowd. In MMA, especially when like things are a bit, like clinched or the fighters are closer together, most of the action, even if you're in the front row, you may not be able to see.
You have to rely on the screens for sure. But as with like certainly for me with sporting events, maybe even with like a concert, I think the appeal for me is to be a part of a crowd and to experience the crowd and the energy of a crowd rather than maybe having the best view of like the actual action in ring.
I guess part of my point though, sorry, Wai, is that if I'm too far in the back or too far up top, I don't feel like I'd rather be in the center of that energy and the noise instead of feeling like I'm on the outskirts of it.
Right. Yeah. You got to find a good seat, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, Aram, are you planning out any excursions, I guess, in the coming year?
Yeah, I'm going to the quarterfinal in the Euros football in Hamburg this summer.
Ooh, awesome.
And
amazing.
Yeah, and if everything goes to plan and the rankings are gonna be matched, then I probably will see Portugal play if they go through. But that's a big if. I know it doesn't say a lot for non-football fans.
No, that's a big
It means
deal.
nothing to me.
No, but that's like getting a WrestleMania ticket. Like it's really you have to like be logged on like for a year and ahead and
wow,
ship in your like copies of your passport, and it's a big hassle, but
crazy.
It's like a couple hours drive from Sweden, so it's not that far.
Amazing.
And I'm going on ski vacation with my family in a couple of months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What is life like in Sweden? What's life like in Denmark? These are like far off places that I only kind of like dream of, visiting one day. Like I only picture like, I don't know, like the Danish cookie tin boxes. Like I picture like every image looking like the painting on those tins. Like, what's it like living there?
Oh, it's very trivial. It's like, it's very ordinary. It's hard to say because when I have friends from other countries up here, they feel like it's the most safest place in the world. They like. I sometimes try to like. I have something whenever somebody comes up here, and if Neil came, I would take him to like the toughest part of Sweden or Denmark, but he would probably just laugh. It's like a normal suburban otherwise.
Yeah, how does that compare to Baltimore City? I'm wondering.
Oh, you can't compare it because it's like I can just explain like this. I took one of my friends from the Netherlands to like the worst part of my city, and when I took him there, he was like, "Is this a ghetto?" A ghetto in other countries are like majority of a city, are like big areas. This like is a small compound they call like a ghetto, and it's nothing at all. Like,
Sounds
you can't
lovely.
compare it. That's why we are like so romanticizing like Nordic crime stories up here, and a lot of crime. There are some dark stories, but it's like out in the bushes. But in the larger cities, it's very common, very easy. It's a lot of Lego everywhere.
Oh, dreamland. Maybe I will visit one day. Maybe all of us will visit one day, or maybe you'll come over here, to North America, or maybe even Philadelphia. So at some point, Aram, maybe we will reconnect. And thank you for calling in, as always.
Thanks, man.
I just have one story. I had like, I know it sounds weird, but I had a dream about you three guys like a month ago. I had I dreamt like you three were the NWO, and of course Neil, he was of course Hulk Hogan because he's the elderly. Yeah, and you were Scott Hall because you always have the bandana on. And wait,
I was Nash.
Yeah, you're Nash because you're like the cool in the behind, like the mastermind,
the enforcer.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's how I think of it.
Look at the adjective.
I want somebody to do a Photoshop of you three.
Okay. That is quite the interesting dream, and I don't know how to interpret it, but thank you for sharing.
Me neither. I hope you have some answers.
Wow. Where the big boys play. Thank you very much, Aram. Much appreciated.
Yeah, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
You too, Aram.
You too, man.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
How about that? Yeah, the first time I think any man has said that they dreamt of me as part of the NWO. What an honor.
Yeah, I can see it.
I can feel it even.
Yeah. I feel like, Neil, you're more the Kevin Nash. You're certainly the tallest of us all.
I'm probably the tallest. Yeah, I don't really feel like a strong identification with any of them. I'm particularly not Hogan for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah. Jordan would be just in terms of charisma. I would say you're more like Hulk Hogan.
I still can't take that as a compliment, but
sorry.
I suppose thank you. I like being the bad guy though.
Okay, well that's good too.
Jordan, are you going to take me to the worst part of Baltimore when I visit? Okay.
No,
just checking.
I mean, it's all relative. I mean, like wherever you go in Baltimore, others might think is now the worst part of Baltimore.
Thanks.
Hey, last thing before we get out of here, how does it feel spending, I guess, a month now as an engaged man?
It feels good. I can't say much different, but it feels nice. It's I'm happy I did it. Let's put it that way. I guess the weird thing is about like everyone asking like, okay, so when's the wedding and what you gonna do? And like what you gonna do? And we're not like, I'm not that interested in like kind of those conversations. It's like we're talking about what that may look like, but I don't think it's what most people would be expecting as far as very traditional. But it's great. It's one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I can say that confidently.
Awesome. Wonderful. Happy to hear it.
Thanks, man.
And happy to talk to everybody in the post wrestling audience that might have listened to this. If you didn't get a chance to chime in, we invite you to join the Post Wrestling Discord. postwrestling.com/discord. Join the Wellness Policy channel. Let us know what you thought about the episode. Let us know how your 2023 was, or if there's any other questions or topics on your mind. You're just looking for some voices. Jordan's pretty much in there all the time. Neil's in there all the time. I check in from time to time, so that's really the best place. Any parting words before we sign off for the year and think about what we might discuss next month?
Well, at the end of last episode, you were like, commitment. Was that like, I'm just curious. And the irony is that we had a scheduled phone call a couple of days ago, and you did not commit to that way.
Totally not committal. I mean, it was just more of a topic that I think we could have branched off of, I guess, your engagement. But I, to be honest, didn't sense that much interest from you in having a whole episode about it. And I ultimately felt like maybe doing the open calls was probably a better idea.
Nothing feels top of mind in this moment. Neil, you may feel differently.
I would need to think about it. I mean, I did sort of think about the year in review. I feel like I really enjoy these open call episodes because they have kind of a life of their own. The conversation becomes very organic. October was a great one, I thought, because we had mild-mannered Corey from Rewind to SmackDown call-ins talking about his violent spinning kick dancing and all of that. But we've covered a lot of very topical stuff as well. I have the list here. We started with Matt and anxiety, and we did friendship, loss and grief, of course, Jordan, which was probably the most important episode we did all year. Children's mental health, science, communication, fitness and nutrition with Justin, aging, music last month. So, we've done a lot of topics as well as kind of the freeform stuff. So I love how the show has evolved this year. That's kind of where I'm at, and we'll just see what January brings. I don't feel a great deal of pressure to decide right now we need to do a particular topic. There's plenty of stuff that could be even revisited.
Well, much sooner before then. Wai, you're doing a post Christmas episode, yes, this year.
That is correct. Yeah, in fact, it comes out in about a few days from now, on Christmas Eve, and I believe we might even hear from the two of you.
Oh, I will look for the invitation. I guess just one request, because it is as a listener and now viewer these past few years, it is by far my favorite post wrestling show of the year. As a Jewish man, it certainly puts me in the Christmas mood. We could say I love it. Just a request. I feel at this point I've contributed enough, both in our friendship and like with me to post wrestling, to have a little bit of that, Hogan stroke around here. Mm-hmm. Could you just not pair me with Eric Marcotte? That's all I ask.
It's a fair request.
That's a very unique and specific request.
Take it into account.
I will try to do my best.
Thank you. Thank you. chop-tease.com/detox. I made dozens of dollars yesterday off the creative backs of the Rainforest Cafe.